Hello, and welcome to the 15th BrettCast episode, the sort of podcast where I take all of my individual segments and put them into one longer form video that releases a few times a month. Kicking things off with movie and TV talk, where I'm going to talk about Arrowverse's Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover special. Then it's over to What's New With for a two-parter. The first part I'm going to talk about some upcoming Studio Series figures and Studio Series 86 figures, and then I'm going to talk about some upcoming Marvel Legends figures. Finally, I'm going to finish things off where I'm going to discuss and give my thoughts on the Outer Worlds. With that, let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to the Movie and TV Talk segment. It's got to the point in my watching of all the Arrowverse shows that I've hit the big crossover that has been teased since season 1 of The Flash. Yes, I have finally gotten to see Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I'm going to talk about it. Remember, there will be spoilers, so let's dive on in. I want to first talk about the individual shows a little bit leading up to Crisis, since I've talked about some seasons of the various shows, but not all of them, and not really in depth either, but I'm going to just give my opinion on whatever season of the show that Crisis occurs within, leading up to it. Starting with Supergirl in its 5th season here, and it's been going okay. Supergirl was dealing with this group known as Leviathan, while also having to deal with Lena Luthor, taking Kara's reveal as Supergirl to her, as Kara has been betraying her and lying to her for so long and pretty much wants nothing to do with Kara anymore. Season 1 of Batwoman has been pretty great in my opinion. Kate Kane is such an interesting person to me, trying to juggle her dual identities while also trying to go after Alice, who's basically their sister, but not really, because Alice went and killed Kate's stepmom, and that really pisses her off. So now both Kate and her dad, who's the head of the Crows, want Alice dead. I like it. I like the first season of Batwoman. Season 6 of The Flash has been kind of mid. They've been dealing with a guy that put some weird blood into himself in hopes that it would cure his HLH, but it turned him into scary villain guy. He goes around saying that he's cured death and will give his blood to other people, and it pretty much turns them into zombies. And that is the threat that Team Flash has been working on before Crisis. The only other thing of note is that Barry spends time trying to prep the team for post-Crisis life, since he's supposed to disappear in the Crisis, but that's kind of it for the Flash. Season 8 of Arrow before Crisis is just it's just Mar Novu, this cosmic being guy, sending Oliver and sometimes other members of the Arrow team to various places to try to prep Oliver for the coming Crisis, and that's pretty much it. Now, when it comes to Legends, they basically went on a break since season 1, or since season 4 wraps up, and stayed on a break right up until Crisis starts, since it is the first episode of the 5th season of Legends. So I'm just going to be straight, season 4 of Legends sucks. Everything is a joke, nothing is serious, and it hampers the show. Most episodes I was questioning why I was even watching Legends still at this point. Okay, now we can get on to Crisis itself. The crux of Crisis itself is that there is an antimatter wave that is going throughout the multiverse, and that wave is destroying different Earths as it goes, and our heroes have to stop that from happening. There is a guy that shows up in the various shows before Crisis, Mar Novu, aka the Monitor, to tell them that there was a crisis coming, and that they need to be prepared. Now, viewers of The Flash have known that the Crisis is coming ever since season 1 because of the holographic newspaper article in the Time Vault. Anyway, Mar Novu and our heroes are going up against the Anti-Monitor because they couldn't have come up with a better name. Also, the Anti-Monitor's actual comic book look is somehow even more stupid than they made him look in this crossover. Anyway, The Anti-Monitor is doing their evil plan because their goal is to destroy the current multiverse and replace it with an antimatter universe. Why is that? Well, in one episode of Crisis, we see Mar-Novu on his home planet with his wife, and they're trying to go to the birth of the universe, and when they do, everything goes wrong, and he ends up in the antimatter universe, which also reveals the existence of the multiverse to the Anti-Monitor. Superman and Lois pretty much get killed off in the beginning, and they send their son, Jonathan, they almost get killed off, but they send their son, Jonathan, off in a pod similar to the one that Kara and Kal arrived on Earth in. But they got saved by Mar-Novu, and that's good. They spend a lot of the first episode of Crisis, which is an episode of Supergirl, making sure they can evacuate as many people off of Earth 38 before the antimatter wave hits. And they did manage to save like 3 billion people, I believe the monitor says. Jonathan's pod lands on Earth 16, so Lois and Brainy go and locate him. The first episode is, in fact, the episode where Oliver dies for the first time. Several of the episodes are spent on finding paragons, but also like our heroes realizing they are a certain paragon. The point is that basically the multiverse gets totally wiped out with our heroes and Lex Luthor getting sent to the vanishing point. Yep, Lex. I'll get into that later. Okay, so from here they try to bring Oliver back via a Lazarus pit on another Earth, and they need to save his soul. So with the help of Constantine, they try to do that, but, Oliver basically becomes a cosmic entity. Cosmic Oliver has a showdown with the Anti-Monitor, where Oliver dies again, while the other heroes fought some army of lame shadow skeleton thingies. But Cosmic Oliver was able to make a new universe, and in the new universe we have Earth Prime. That's what it's called. Earth Prime literally makes it so that Earth 38, Supergirl's Earth, Earth TUD5, Black Lightning's Earth, are all on the same Earth as the other shows. So yeah, now Supergirl, Batwoman, Black Lightning, Arrow, and The Flash are all on the same Earth, and that's just terrific. Of course, the end of Crisis shows us that it's a new multiverse too, because they show Brandon Routh's Superman, Stargirl and her team, Raven and Starfire from the Titans TV show, as well as the Doom Patrol. Now, let's get down to what did I think of the Crisis crossover. I have a lot of opinions here, so let me start with what I liked. The cameos were all pretty great, and there are a good amount of them too. You have adult Robin from 66 Batman show, a second Robin but not sure what from, Kevin Conroy as Bruce Wayne in live action, Brandon Routh's Superman, Raven and Starfire from Titans, Doom Patrol, Ezra Miller's Flash from the DCEU, and Lucifer from the Lucifer TV show. Some of the interactions with these cameos were good too. Bruce Wayne was so different that most people would have expected. He had trophies from enemies that he's killed, including that Earth's Superman's glasses, which is why Bruce was in a mechanical exoskeleton. The back and forth between the CW Flash and the DCEU Flash was pretty good too. Interaction between Ray Palmer and Earth 96 Superman was pretty funny. I was glad that I finally got to see Black Lightning in a crossover and a chance to meet the others. At the end of Crisis, Nash Wells got what he deserved, since it was pretty much his fault for Crisis even happening, and I was satisfied to see him get punched by Cisco since he deserved it. Now, here are some things that surprised me. When Flash and a few others find the antimatter cannon being powered by someone running, which turns out to be Earth 90 Flash, Earth 1 Barry was going to take his place when they come up with the idea to run in the opposite direction to stop the antimatter wave, but Earth 90 Flash doesn't let him and does it himself, and runs until he disintegrates. It was definitely not something I was expecting at all. I was also not expecting Oliver's first death to happen so early, despite predicting something pretty bad was going to happen to him since Arrow ends with Season 8, but I was still not expecting that to happen when it did, nor was I expecting Oliver to become a cosmic being and then dying a second time. Now, things that I wish would have been in there. I wish that the episode of Crisis that fell within an episode of Black Lightning actually tied in better to Crisis overall. The bulk of the episode was on Jen being affected by the red skies and seeing the lives of two other versions of herself, one that had very little power and one that had too much power. The most we get is in the end of the episode where the antimatter wave destroys Earth to UD5, but the Monitor teleports Black Lightning out just in time. To go with that, why is it that only Black Lightning got to take part in Crisis? Why couldn't they have had Thunder and Lightning go with him? I wish they would have utilized Black Lightning more also in the Crisis. He shows up like twice, and that's kind of sad when this is his first crossover. I wish that they would have used all of the legends. They mainly use Sarah, Mick, and Ray, and that's it. Nate and I think it's Birad, they get like a split second of screen time towards the end, but that's it. Now I'm going to put the rest of my thoughts in kind of a miscellaneous because... Now I'm going to put the rest of my thoughts as well as things that I thought could have been done better here because it's kind of all I got left. I felt the whole thing with Nash Wells becoming pariah and being stuck just watching tragedies unfold was stupid, and that is because he was able to help the other heroes anyway. Like, Nash as pariah is supposed to be with the Anti-Monitor technically, so why would and should he be able to do something that would go against the Anti-Monitor? Wouldn't the Anti-Monitor do something to prevent Nash as pariah from helping the heroes? If he can only watch, then it just doesn't make a lot of sense. The whole thing with Lila being the Harbinger felt extremely forced. She spent 2 episodes of Arrow before Crisis doing very questionable things that are supposed to help the Monitor, and then all of a sudden she's just this Harbinger. On top of that, she as this Harbinger was so easily manipulated by the Anti-Monitor into releasing him and aiding in the whole Crisis happening. Finally, right at the end of the crossover, after our heroes are finished mourning over the death of Oliver, we get this reveal of this table and chairs for our remaining heroes, kind of like a Hall of Justice. There are spots for the Flash, Black Lightning, Supergirl, Superman, White Canary, and Batwoman, and I'm just not a fan of this sort of thing in the sense of the Arrowverse heroes. Why is it only those heroes get a special chair? You just want to leave out Martian Manhunter, Dreamer, Lightning, Thunder, Frost, Elongated Man, and the rest of Team Arrow and the rest of the Legends? Are you trying to tell me that they are just like the minor heroes of the Arrowverse? I don't really think that's fair, and I'm not a fan of it. Overall, Crisis is still the best crossover yet. It definitely lived up to all of the build-up that they had been doing. Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover is good and enjoyable and definitely worth a watch in my opinion. And that's all I got, and that's going to bring the movie and TV talk segment to a close. Hello, and welcome to the first part of the What's New With segment. In this first part, I'm going to talk about some upcoming Studio Series and Studio Series 86 figures. Let's get into it. Going to start off with Studio Series 86. I'm going to start with the Core Class Frenzy. I don't really have all that much to say on this one. I felt like it was coming since they didn't Rumble, and so it only makes sense that they release a G1 Frenzy at some point. This one is the exact same mold as Rumble, just in a different color, and that's it. Core Class Frenzy has a price of $12.99. The next one is the Studio Series 86 Voyager class Ratchet. Now, I know this is essentially just a repaint of the Voyager class Ironhide, but I would actually buy this one, as I feel like we don't get that many Ratchet figures, especially compared to Ironhide. Plus, I really would like a more cartoon-accurate Ratchet, since I was really not a fan of the Earthrise one. Voyager class Ratchet has a price of $35.99. Next up is the Studio Series 86 Commander class Ultra Magnus. Yes, finally, the next figure in the Commander class line, and it's a bot with a massive trailer, because of course it is. I mean, the last Commander class was Motormaster, the last Commander class was Armada Prime, which was just a bot with a big trailer, and before that was Motormaster, which was a bot with a big trailer also, And I'm just getting really tired of this becoming the normal thing for both Leader Class and Commander Class figures. I feel like the most interesting things they've done for Commander Class is Jetfire and Skylynx. Anyway, I'm not really a fan of this Ultra Magnus. Everything just seems way too big and out of proportion. His lower legs are massive, and really square. His thighs are tiny, and his chest and arms are huge, and then his head is super small. Yeah, he just looks really weird in robot mode to me. His carrier mode looks pretty cool, but I feel like it's not that hard to mess that up. He comes with a matrix of leadership, but I don't really care. And I also don't care about the limbs coming apart thing as a homage to that one scene in the 86 movie. Definitely am giving that one a pass, not only because of all of that, but I'm not spending another $90 on a bot with a big trailer. Next up is the Studio Series, Rise of the Beast Core Class Noah Diaz Exosuit. No, I'm not sorry, but this looks stupid, and I don't know why they even bothered, other than to fill in some sort of quota of core class figures for the wave. The exosuit itself looks awful, the feet are too big and not the same shade of gray as the rest of the figure. Looks even dumber with all the jet mode stuff just sitting on its back. The jet mode doesn't look any better either, as it's just a rectangle with a jet on it. I'm not going to buy this one. Core Class Noah Diaz Exosuit has a price of $12.99. After that is the Studio Series Rise of the Beast Core Class Novocaine. This is just a straight up repaint of Core Class Freezer. Actually looking at the two, I can't even tell a difference, so I'm inclined to believe that that Novocaine is just a re-release of Freezor with a different name. Even the gun mode is exactly the same as Freezor. Honestly, Hasbro, this is even lazier than the typical repaint remold process because it doesn't look like it was even done here. Core Class Novocaine has a price of $12.99. Lastly for this part is Studio Series Rise of the Beast Deluxe Class Nightbird. What the heck happened here, and what is all this crap on their back? Now, before I go full on what the heck, it is interesting to note that the picture of Nightbird's robot mode on the back of the box doesn't have all the backpack junk on it, so maybe it's possible to remove all of that, or they just didn't render all the backpack junk on it for the back of the box. If it is removable, then I will say that I don't mind the massive backpack too much. But I do have a question, is why didn't they give Nightbird 2 swords? Because I'm pretty sure in the movie she used 2 swords, and they have her using 2 swords in the CGI render right on the front of the box. Please, just don't do Nightbird like they did with Studio Series Mirage. Deluxe Class Nightbird has a price of $25.99. And that's going to end the first part of What's New With, so let's move on to the next. And now we arrive at the second half of the What's New With segment. This time I'm going to be giving my opinion on a few upcoming Marvel Legends figures. Let's get into it. First up is War Machine, as he appears in Captain America Civil War. Now, I hope this is actually a new figure, because I remember the first 2 Marvel Legends figures I ever bought were War Machine and Iron Man from the Civil War movie, and they sucked. So I hope this isn't the same crappy War Machine figure, just in a new box. All that aside, it does look really nice. Figure of War Machine, and he does come with all of the accessories he should, which is good. I will definitely be keeping my eye out for this one, as I would like to add it to my collection. The Captain America Civil War version of War Machine has a price of $25.99. Next up is the Iron Man Mark II, as it appears in the first Iron Man movie. I was not really expecting this one, but I'm glad they're making it. I feel like the Mark II doesn't get a lot of love in figure form unless it's one of those crazy expensive Hot Toys figures. I would honestly love to add this decently priced figure of the Mark II to my collection, and I will be keeping an eye out for it. Iron Man Mark II has a price of $25.99. Lastly, we have the Iron Man Mark 46 as it appears in Captain America Civil War. As with War Machine, please don't let this be a repack of the previous one that was really terrible. Let this be an actual new figure of the Mark 46. I must say, though, that this figure looks really good. I find it interesting that they always show Iron Man figures doing the superhero landing pose when it literally is impossible to get the figure to do that pose. Not really much else to say other than I will be definitely on the lookout for this one, as I'd love to add it to my collection. Iron Man Mark 46 has a price of $25.99. And that's going to do it for the What's New With segment. Hello, and welcome to the Gaming Talk segment. In this segment, I'm going to be discussing and giving my thoughts on the game, The Outer Worlds. For myself, The Outer Worlds is one game where I started it at one point, uninstalled it, took a long break from it, and then decided to come back to it recently so that I could finish it. Yes, I did actually finish it, and I just want to be clear that I'm only talking about the base game. I have not played any of the DLC for it. Now, my immediate overall feeling once I finished the story was, that's it? Yeah, that was it. And that is one of the biggest problems with the game, is that it took me a whopping 15 hours to finish all of the base game. For being a big game that lets you explore planets, is very sad that there is so little to do outside of the main story. There needed to be way more side quests for the player to do, but it just lacks in that department. I know that Obsidian is the same developers that made Fallout New Vegas, and that is the game that everyone compares The Outer Worlds to, but I'm not going to do that. I've never played New Vegas, and even if I had, I don't think it's warranted because The Outer Worlds is sci-fi, and Fallout is post-apocalyptic. I have played Fallout 3 and 4, as well as a few other Bethesda games like Oblivion and Skyrim, and those games not only have a lot of side quests for the player to do, but also these constant and persistent quests that never go away, like the Dark Brotherhood quests in Skyrim. That is the sort of thing that The Outer Worlds needs, and to be honest, The Outer Worlds needs factions in it to provide quests like that. On the note of quests, the main story is so boring and forgettable that I honestly couldn't even tell you what it's about. It's this world that's ruled by mega corporations, and that is the one thing they don't let you forget about. Yes, I agree, corporations are bad, but I don't need to hear that in my game literally every 5 seconds, and that is what it felt like The Outer Worlds does. The weapons are alright, they needed to be more of them. You get to a point where weapons just kind of do the Destiny 2 thing of looking the same with just a higher rarity and thus does more damage, and you can make them do more damage by tinkering with them. Armor selection feels worse because the best armor that I found in the game was the same armor as some guards wear, and that's sad. I want something unique. I'm the player. I don't want to look like an NPC just because it's the best armor in the game, but I have to because it's the best armor in the game. Of course, you can make the armor better by tinkering with it, but I just want something that's more unique, and the game doesn't provide that. I found that there's very little variety in the planets you go to. They all seem to have the same enemy people, the same creatures, the same everything. Again, do something to make the planets look more unique, but no, they didn't do that. Companions are okay. I tended not to use them unless I needed to because I prefer playing, games like Fallout 3, 4, Oblivion, and Skyrim without companions. There are specific companion quests, but I didn't feel like I grew closer to them after doing that. I will say, though, that the thing I disliked the most with this game is that when you get to the end of the main story, it does this point of no return thing. It basically forces the player to make a save before doing the last quest, and then once you complete it, credits roll takes you back to the menu. You want to continue playing, you have to load that last save you made before the point of no return. I find that really annoying because during the final mission, there's a room full of vending machines with really good upgrades, but you don't get to keep those after you finish playing the last mission because, your last save just doesn't have that. I wouldn't have minded this if they gave you the option to continue playing after the last quest, but they don't. In a game like Skyrim, I can do all of the main story quests, both DLC main story quests, and keep playing. I absolutely do not like the point of no return stuff in a game like The Outer Worlds. Is there anything about The Outer Worlds that I didn't like? The only thing that I didn't like was the dialogue. There are some pretty good and also funny options, and the ways NPCs react is pretty interesting too, and is done very well. But overall, The Outer Worlds is boring, and it lacks stuff to do, lacks interesting weapons and armor, and it has this really stupid point of no return stuff before the last main story quest. Yeah, the dialogue options and the ways NPCs react to them is fun and funny, but that's not really enough to save this game. The Outer Worlds is an average and boring game. And that's all I have here, so that's going to bring the Gaming Talk segment to a close. That's also going to bring the 15th BrettCast episode to a close. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the comment section below, and I may even answer a question or discuss a comment in a future episode. If you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.